Well, hello, friends. I am Rainy, and this is Rainy Day Reads. And today I would like to do the New Year's book tag for you. But first, I would like to apologize for the starkness of this background and for probably the echo that you're hearing now that I start recording this. If you've been around for a while, you know that I gave away my one bookshelf that I had and some other furniture to a family member, and I have yet to buy anything new. And then, on top of that, I decided that while I had no furniture, I would rip up the carpeting in here that has been here since I moved in 10 years ago. And there were lovely hardwood floors underneath, and I'm enjoying them greatly. But I just now, this is the first time I have tried to film in here, and I'm kind of realizing that there's an echo. So I apologize, but I have limited time to film this today, and I would like to do that. So without further ado, let's get into the New Year book tag, which I tagged myself in after watching Brian from Bookish say that if I'm watching this, I'm tagged. So I felt that I was tagged. So I am going to do this. And I've seen a lot of other people do this. I may have been tagged in someone's video. I'm not really sure. I digress. Let's get into it. Handy dandy little notebook. Oh, first question is easy. How many books are you planning to read in 2020? Well, I did a 2020 goals video back in December, and I think at the time I said that I was going to set it to 52 books, like one book a year, or one book a year, one book a week. And I have since changed that a little bit, and I went with 75 books. I definitely am going to reach 50 books in the year. I mean, I just know that I will. But 75 might be a little bit more of a challenge this year, so I thought I might as well challenge myself a little bit. So, so I decided to up it to 75. Question number 2 is name 5 books that you didn't get to read in 2019, but you want to make a priority in 2020. And I did a whole video on my 20 books that I want to read in 2020. But I pulled some of them from that list, and also one that I didn't put on that list, but that I do kind of want to read towards the beginning of this year, I think. It just looks fun, and I want to prioritize it in the winter months, I think. So, number 1 is the Book Woman of Troublesome Creek. I never remember if it's the Book Women of Troublesome Creek or the Book Woman of Troublesome Creek. I think it's woman, but I'll put the picture up here. And I do have a buddy read planned for this one, so I know I will be getting to this one this year. It was on my video of the 20 books that I want to read in 2020. I first learned about this book last year on Sarah from Steeped in Books channel, and for some reason, I think because Sarah is primarily a romance reader, I thought it was a romance, but I don't think it is now. I think it's historical fiction. So yeah, not that I have anything against romance, but I just think that I kind of put it off initially because I'm not really drawn to romances, so I thought that it was. And I'm sure there's probably a romance element. I don't know. There usually is in books, but I don't think it's specifically romance. So now that I know that it is more historical fiction based than romance based, I definitely want to pick that book up. And number 2 is one that I did not have on my 2020 or books to read in 2020 video, was The Bookshop on the Corner. And I picked this up at a library book sale in March of last year. So I've almost had this book a year. And for me to have a physical book for a year that I haven't read is a lot for me. And I have a lot of books now on a physical TBR from that March library book sale. But this one, I think I actually accidentally stole it from one of the volunteers that were working the book sale, because I think she put it out for her to take, and I saw it just sitting on the table in front of her, and I took it, and then realized afterwards that I thought she was probably going to pick it up. So I feel real bad about that. So I want to read this so that I can take it back to the library and give it to the volunteer that wanted it initially, if she hasn't already picked it up somewhere else. Who knows? Book 3 is Olive by Dinah Mullet-Crake, and this is one that I've had on my BookTuber TBR a couple different times at this point, and still have not read. I don't know why. I should just, whatever category it fits into for BookTuber, I should just put it in there so that I can make sure that it's on my TBR. But yes, this one involves disability in Victorian times, and that's something that I am really interested in. So I definitely want to pick that up this year and make it a priority. Another Victorian book on my list is Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. This is a much loved Dickens on BookTube. Tom Reads Things goes on about it, and Katie from Books and Things goes on about it. Lots of people that I have watched love this book. So I have not read this Dickens, and I am trying to read through all of Dickens' works in the next year or so. He's written a lot, and they're usually pretty long, so it might take me longer than 2020, but I definitely want to prioritize Dombey and Son this year. And finally, my 5th book that I want to prioritize this year is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I tried to read Way of Kings from the Stormlight Archives at the beginning of 2019, and I got through it, but I was very confused. And I think that's partly because I listened to it on audiobook, and high fantasy and audiobooks for some people do not work well, and apparently I am one of those people. So but my coworker, who he recommends a lot of fantasy to me, he told me that he thinks I might like the Mistborn series better. So I'm going to try this at some point, and I forget when, but I have a buddy read planned for this one as well. So moving on from that question to question number 3. What genre do you want to read more of in 2020? And I feel like I read fairly broadly. I don't read horror, and I don't read thrillers, and I probably never will. Those are just not things that I'm interested in. But I would like to get back to reading more historical fiction, which there is a readathon coming up in February that is run by Amanda at the Curly Reader and Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, all about historical fiction. So I'm excited to at least read one historical fiction for this, in addition to all the other books that I already have on my February TBR that is already kind of ridiculous. But I would like to definitely get back to historical fiction, because I read a lot of books set in past time periods. I read a lot of Victorian fiction, but they're not necessarily classified as historical fiction because the author was writing in that same time period. You know what I mean? So historical fiction, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think historical fiction is more when it's more of a future author writing about a past time. So, I mean, it could be, I'm actually thinking that War and Peace that I have been reading might be historical fiction, because I believe Tolstoy was writing after the Napoleonic Wars when War and Peace is set. So I think that could classify as historical fiction, but I'm going to have to look more into that. Also, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And also, I'm planning to read a little bit more romance this year. Um, my friend Sarah from Steeped in Books is primarily a romance reader, and I kind of want to delve into the things that she reads a little bit more. I'm definitely more of a what do they call it? A clean romance person where you don't have to read about all of the sex. I'm not into that. I don't want to read all of that. So she's given me a couple of recommendations, and we're actually going to buddy read the Bromance Book Club next month, I believe. And that one apparently does have some sexy times in it, which I mean I can handle. But that one is apparently between married people, so I'm fine with that, I think. So I think I'm fine with that. We'll see. So, but yeah, I would kind of like to dip my toes a little bit in the romance genre. Maybe not go full force, but dip my toes in. Okay, question number 4 is name 3 non-book related goals for 2020. And like everyone else, I have like the exercise more goal. My goal is to get to the gym twice a week, at least during the winter months. Last week, that did not happen. I was very lazy last week, and the weather was kind of bad, so I did not make that happen last week. But the rest of January so far, I've been able to do that. But yeah, but I have been doing yoga, so I don't know. I still call it sort of a win. But and then I also would like to keep up with journaling more. For somebody who likes to read and write, I cannot keep up with journaling. I don't know why. It must have something to do with feelings. I must not like to write down my feelings. I don't know. But I have one of those 5-year journals that's like a line a day for 5 years, and I have been keeping up with that pretty consistently since I got it a couple years ago. This will be the third, well, like 2.5 years that I've had this journal. So, and I have been keeping up with it pretty good so far this year. But I think I've missed a couple of days, but so far that's been okay. And then my third goal, which I didn't really even know that I had until this year, was to learn to knit a sock. And I'm doing it. So this is my teeny tiny little sock. It's probably going to be an ankle sock. And then this is dental floss because apparently there's something called a lifeline that you can put in your knitting whenever you think that you might mess up and can't get it back. And then you can put this in and it saves your stitches, and you won't have to like rip out the entire sock just because you messed up a couple of stitches. So again, this is something that Sarah from Steeped in Books has been helping me with. But also I've gotten knitting inspiration from Tanya from the Sampler Girl, and Kate Howe, and all the ladies that do the knit and listens that they've been doing a couple of times since last year. And I'm like, oh, I really want to knit. I already crochet, but for some reason I just think knitting looks so cool. And so this is as far as I've gotten so far on this sock. This is like the heel, they call it the heel flap, this part. So this is the cuff, and this is the back of the sock, I guess. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm pretty proud of myself so far on this. I've had to, oh my gosh, before I found this lifeline thing, before Sarah told me about this, you don't know how many times I have had to restart this dang sock. I'm surprised I haven't chucked it across the room. Question 5 is, what book have you had for forever that you still have to read? And for this one, like I've said before, I don't have a ton of physical TBR books. Basically all of my physical TBR books come from 2 library book sales that I've gone to in 2019. I just was never a person to buy a book without reading it right away. So now I probably have about 30 books on my TBR in my house that I need to actually read through and decide if I want to keep it or not. So that's kind of a plan for 2020, because I'm sure I'll go to the next library book sale and bring in more books. But so, yes, booktube problems. But one of the few books that I bought from an actual bookstore last year that I still haven't read is The Hazelwood by Melissa Elbert. And I've heard like very mixed things about this, but this cover drew me in. And the fact that it's kind of like a messed up fairy tale kind of drew me in. So I do need to read this, and I really should prioritize this year. So we'll see if I actually do. But this is probably the one I've had on my shelves the longest because I think I probably bought it in like February of 2019. And that's the longest I usually have a book on my shelf without actually having read it. And the last one is kind of a difficult one for me because I generally don't do this. And this question is, what is one word that you are hoping 2020 will be? So it's like the one little word project, which I did do one year, and it never stuck for me. So, um, but I don't know. I guess I'm hoping that 2020 will just be a happy year. um, I've had a lot of low moments in the past 3 years of my life, and I'm just kind of hoping that this year is not like that. So, yeah, I guess we'll go with happy. That seems simple enough. So, that is the New Year's book tag, and I am not going to tag anybody. I'm going to be one of those people. Basically, just because everybody's probably done this tag that wants to, but if you haven't done it and this is the first you're seeing this tag and you want to be tagged, I tag you. So, all right, friends, I will be back soon. I'm hoping to do a Friday Reads this week. I totally did not do one this last Friday. It was kind of a hectic week that yeah, kind of a lot of things got messed up in my plans. So, so I'm trying to get back on track now. So, all right, friends, I will talk to you later. Bye.